Nå, men sådan der.
We are Kristine, Samson and Michael Haldrup from Roskilde University, Denmark, and our paper is written with Thomas Laurien, University of Gothenburg, Sweden, and is entitled Designing for Multispecies Commons. Apart from the three of us, we also want to acknowledge the practical knowledge that comes from being entangled with artists, anglers, and activists in and around the urban landscapes of Borås and Copenhagen, collaborators who have significantly contributed to our understanding of what multispecies commons might be. In recent years, participatory designers drawing on environmental humanities and feminist theory have increasingly reflected on how to expand the notions of participation in participatory design, also to include the voices and interests of more than human actors and concerns in design processes. Work from, for example, Yoko Akama and others presented at the Participatory Design Conference 2020, but also other contributions from Lindström, Ståhl, Fjelland, and so on, responds to more general calls for decentering anthropocentric notions of agency and ecologies, instead repositioning the role of design and the designer as planetary. However, we still struggle with issues of how to, in practice, integrate, represent, and acknowledge the interests and rights of non-human others in the design process. Our paper is an attempt of an opening up towards this, in particular by drawing on two sources of inspiration, the emergence of the planetary as concept and category, and multi-species studies. As Deepas Chakrabarty has observed, the emergent category of the planet in the humanities seem to indicate a shift in concern from the sustainability of human society to a non-anthropocentric concern for the habitability as such of our planet, arguing that the question is not how life is managed in the interest of power, but rather what makes a planet friendly to the continuous existence of complex life. Translated into a design context, this means that we are challenged with addressing not only the interests, preferences, and desires of human agents, but also of the multiple other species that we share and co-inhabit the planet with. Our second source of inspiration in pushing the limits for how to incorporate such a planetary framework is the still developing field of multi-species studies. In line with these, we acknowledge the need to facilitate ways of speaking of our own survival contingent on entanglements with multi-species assemblages, what Deborah Bird-Rose has called multi-species knots, and in doing this engage with the numerous representations, aesthetizations, and enactments in which everyday practices such as distribution on social media, activism, and artistic practice also play their part. In the paper, we draw on two ongoing case studies on urban design in relation to respectively River Viskan in Borås, Sweden, and Amager or Amager Commons in Copenhagen, Denmark. Both cases illustrate the potential tensions between human-centered urban design and development on one side, and the interests and claims of other species for livable environments on the other. To address this issue, we have engaged with knowledgeable practitioners in the case of Borås, where fieldwork was performed by Thomas Laurien, urban activists and anglers. In the case of Amager, where Kristine, Samson and I are doing fieldwork, environmental activists and artists. In the case of Viskan, the pressure for constructing housing and green park areas along its banks has also led to a regulation of the water flow of the river, as seen in the picture. Although this wall doesn't look like a wall the way we humans may imagine it, and many humans would probably even experience it as beautiful, it still acts as a definite and brutal wall for individuals of the local fish community. In that sense, urban design acts as a very means by which the river, its water flows, ecologies, and primary inhabitants, such as the brown trout, is slowly being trapped and poisoned. In mapping this, the knowledge of local anglers are invaluable, as they provide tacit knowledge of this process. Paradoxically or not, the hook and the care come as a pair. Many anglers spend a huge amount of their time in proximity with water and fish and interact with both schools of fish and fish individuals, as well as the mood of the water. As a result, they often become very knowledgeable about the eases of different species, that is, their distinctive embodied ways of being in the world.
So next case is on Amager Commons, which is a thriving ecosystem less than 4 kilometers from the city center of Copenhagen. Formerly, it has been used as a commons for pasture, a garbage dump for the expanding city, a shooting ground for the military. The commons can be understood as a nature-culture entanglement over time in which humans, nature, and multiple species have joined forces so as to create a thriving ecosystem which has become the habitat for multiple species such as the great newt, the skylark, deers, as well as humans. As such, it serves as a contemporary commons for the cohabitation and as a space for encounters and commoning between species. Due to its closeness to the city center, however, and an increasingly neoliberal and accelerated urban development in Copenhagen, the commons is also a construction site currently for the future urban development of Common City. On the commons, we have worked with Frej Smedes from the activist group Embassy of the Species. He explains where and how the newt lives, and how the development of Common City will cause severe damage not only on the habitats of the newt, but also interrupt and disturb the thriving ecosystem. It is important to protect sites where species can breed and expand their living conditions, and not only survive. Amager Common is such a place, and that is what we are fighting for, that it will remain a thriving and expanding ecosystem. Here the great newt plays a key role as an ambassador species, Frej argues. Another way of pointing to the rights of other species is, according to Frej, to give them a face we as humans can recognize and mirror ourselves in. Aesthetics and sensory ways of encountering other species, he explains, is important to make humans understand the lives of others and how we are connected. So some conclusions. The two cases question the role of design and designers. Both engage with how designers can sustain existing ecologies and repair the damage done by current practices of urban design and planning. The cases point to the values that can be gained for designers from teaming up with knowledgeable and passionate people from non-designerly positions, environmental activists and anglers, for example, and how we as designers can use our platforms to amplify their experiences and voices. The cases also show how participatory design practices can work with an earthly commoning in between humans and other species. Here we see the role of the designer as a planetary thinker and a commoner. So both cases illustrate how designers can learn to listen differently by expanding perceptions and practices into multi-species worlds, hence working for reimagining and repositioning the various entanglements with lives and rights of other species into human consciousness and into the public debate. Participatory design may become a powerful tool for reclaiming control over our connected lives and over the conditions of our reproduction. Concluding, we see the role of the design as that of commoning, democratizing urban landscapes as multi-species commons through political and designerly acts, insisting on planetary citizenship, multi-species rights, and claims descended from human exceptionism. Thanks.